Iran was choosing its next supreme leader, and at that exact moment, the building was bombed. This isn't just a war, it's an attempt to dismantle a state in real time. Embassies hit, an oil refinery in flames, ground troops in Lebanon and Wall Street crashing. Day 5 just proved this war has no ceiling. Picture this. 88 of Iran's most senior religious scholars are sitting inside a building in the holy city of K. The country's supreme leader is dead. The Constitution gives these 88 men, and only these 88 men, the legal authority to choose the next one. They are in a meeting. They are in the middle of choosing who will lead one of the world's most powerful theocracies. And then Israeli jets arrive. That is what happened on Tuesday. Israel struck the Assembly of Experts building in Qam while Iran was in the process of selecting its next supreme leader. The Israeli ambassador to the United States went on CNN immediately after and said that there is a very good chance the electors will not be readily available for any further meetings. He was not talking about the building. He was talking about the people inside it. Let that sink in for a moment. The United States and Israel have now killed the supreme leader, killed the people who were supposed to replace him, and bombed the constitutional meeting where the replacement was being chosen. Iran does not just have a leadership vacuum. Iran now has a situation where the legal mechanism for filling that vacuum has been physically attacked. This is no longer a campaign with a beginning, middle, and end. This is a war that has entered a completely different phase. And I'm going to take you through everything that happened in the last 24 hours because this is the most consequential day of the conflict yet. Let us start with the Qam strike, because it is the most extraordinary military and political act of this entire war so far. The Assembly of Experts is an institution that has only done this job once before in the entire history of the Islamic Republic. When the founder of the revolution, Ayatollah Khamenei, died in 1989, the assembly met and elected Ali Khamenei as his successor. That was 37 years ago. The same body, 88 senior clerics, was convening again this week with the weight of history on their shoulders. Iran's foreign minister had said publicly that a new supreme leader could be chosen within days. The assembly was moving quickly precisely because the country is under active bombardment and needs a functioning chain of command. Israel decided that Iran choosing a new leader would be strategically unacceptable, and so they struck the building. Iranian state media confirmed the strike. Footage showed significant damage to the structure. The Israeli Air Force said the strike was designed to destroy the building, not kill the clerics, because reports suggested that when the bombs hit, not all 88 members were present. The vote was reportedly being conducted separately with only a small counting group physically in the building. But the building is destroyed. The process has been disrupted, and the Israeli ambassador said on international television that the electors will not be readily available for further meetings. This is not a military operation in any conventional sense. This is an attempt to prevent the constitutional succession process from completing. Israel and the United States are not just trying to destroy Iran's weapons and kill its leadership. They are trying to prevent Iran from having any leadership at all. Now let us talk about what Iran did in response, because the retaliation on Tuesday reached targets that no one expected. Iran struck 3 American embassies in a single day. The United States Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, was hit by an Iranian drone. The State Department immediately announced it was closed until further notice and canceled all citizen services. The United States Embassy in Kuwait was also hit. Smoke was seen rising from the compound, closed until further notice. Iran also struck the American consulate in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, along with the port of Fujairah on the UAE's eastern coast. 3 American diplomatic missions in 3 different countries in one day. This is significant beyond the physical damage. Embassies are sovereign territory under international law. An attack on an American embassy is legally equivalent to an attack on American soil. Iran is escalating not just militarily, but diplomatically and symbolically. They are telling every American in the Middle East that nowhere is safe. And the State Department responded by telling Americans across 14 Middle Eastern countries to leave immediately. 14 countries. The State Department warning covers not just active conflict zones, but the entire region. This is the largest American civilian evacuation advisory in decades. More than 9,000 Americans have left on their own. The government is arranging charter and military flights for another 1,500 who cannot leave independently. One American woman stranded in Abu Dhabi said she heard bombing at the airport and was busted to a hotel where she stayed for days unable to get any information from the U.S. government about when she would get out. The markets on Tuesday reacted to all of this before the trading day was even fully underway. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 900 points at the opening bell. The Nasdaq sank more than 1.8%. European markets fell even harder. The Pan-European Stocks 600 index was down 2.7% by mid-AM morning in London. Bank shares fell nearly 4%. Insurance stocks fell more than 4%. Mining stocks fell nearly 4%. Even the European Aerospace and Defense Index, which had been one of the few sectors doing well during this conflict, reversed its gains and fell. And on the street level, Americans started feeling the war in their wallets. On Monday, the national average gasoline price in the United States rose 12 cents per gallon in a single day, 12 cents in one day. That is the largest single-day gasoline price increase in 4 years. At a station in California, prices were already sitting at $5 per gallon. GasBuddy's chief analyst said he does not currently foresee $4 gas nationally, but acknowledged that the situation is evolving rapidly. The supertanker shipping rate hit an all-time high. Saudi Aramco announced it was shutting down the Ras Tanura refinery after an Iranian drone struck the facility and set it ablaze. Ras Tanura is the largest oil refinery complex that Saudi Aramco operates. When satellite images showed smoke rising from Ras Tanura, oil traders around the world took notice. The Gulf countries that have been allowing the United States to use their territory and bases are now paying a direct price. Their refineries are on fire. Their airports have been hit. Their citizens have been injured. More than 1 million passengers are caught in travel chaos, with nearly 2,000 flights canceled in and out of the Middle East. Dubai International Airport, which is the world's busiest international hub, is effectively shut down for transiting passengers. People who were flying from Chicago to Bali or from London to Singapore found themselves stranded in war zones because their connecting flight happened to go through the Gulf. Let us talk about Lebanon because Israel has now opened a ground front that it explicitly said it was not planning to open. Just days ago, the IDF said there were no immediate plans to send ground troops across the border into Lebanon. On Tuesday, Israeli ground forces moved deeper into southern Lebanon. Israel's defense minister ordered troops to seize 16 additional positions inside Lebanese territory. The Israeli military described this as establishing a buffer zone and said the objective is to prevent direct fire and rocket launches against Israeli communities near the border. But a buffer zone that requires seizing 16 separate positions is not a buffer zone. That is the beginning of an occupation, and it is happening at the same moment that Hezbollah is escalating its own attacks. Hezbollah launched drones at Ramat David Air Base and the Marine Base in northern Israel. It launched rocket barges at the Golan Heights. Israel struck back and hit more than 70 targets in Dahaa, the southern suburbs of Beirut. They destroyed Hezbollah's Al-Manar television headquarters and Al-Noor radio station. They struck 18 branches of a Hezbollah financial institution across southern Lebanon. They killed Raza Kazai, who was the senior goods force official responsible for managing Iran's military relationship with Hezbollah, and who served as the liaison between Thrawn and the group. Meanwhile, Lebanon's government is trying desperately to prevent this from becoming another full-scale war on Lebanese soil. The Lebanese cabinet formally voted to ban Hezbollah's military activities. The Lebanese army deployed checkpoints on the road to the south. At one of those checkpoints, soldiers arrested 12 armed Hezbollah operatives. The Lebanese Minister of Communications said publicly, "We cannot have half a state. A group cannot make decisions in place of the state." These are remarkable words from a Lebanese government that has for decades avoided any direct confrontation with Hezbollah. But words from a cabinet and checkpoints from an army may not be enough when Israel is already inside the country and Hezbollah is still firing rockets. There is another development from this week that has not received enough attention: the friendly fire incident in Kuwait. 3 U.S. Air Force F-15 Strike Eagle fighter jets crashed in Kuwait on Monday. These were aircraft flying in support of Operation Epic Fury over Iran. The U.S. Central Command confirmed that the planes were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. The pilots ejected safely and were recovered. Kuwait acknowledged the incident. Think about what this reveals. Kuwait is a U.S. ally. Kuwait has American troops on its soil. Kuwait has been defending itself against Iranian missile attacks. And yet, in the chaos of simultaneous inbound Iranian missiles, outbound American aircraft, and air defense systems firing in all directions, Kuwaiti air defenses shot down 3 American fighter jets. The fog of war is real. When you have multiple nations firing missiles and interceptors in every direction simultaneously, the risk of accidents that kill your own people is not theoretical. It is happening. Also on Monday, an American-flagged oil tanker called the Stena Imperative was struck by Iranian drone or missile fire. This is the same tanker that Iranian gunboats attempted to seize in the Strait of Hormuz back in February. Iran has been watching this vessel. Now it has been hit. Let us talk about the political situation in Washington because the domestic pressure on Trump is beginning to build in ways that cannot be ignored. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stood before reporters on Capitol Hill on Tuesday and said something remarkable. He said that the attacks on Iran in the next hours and days will increase in scope and intensity. He said the hardest hits on Iran are yet to come. He said the 2 most powerful air forces in the world will take apart this regime and defang it. These are not the words of a managing a limited military operation. These are the words of an administration committed to total destruction of Iran's military capability. The question that Rubio did not answer is, what comes after that? If you defang Iran, destroy its military, kill its leaders, bomb its succession meetings, and shut its embassies, what exactly do you get at the end? Democrats in Congress are now openly challenging the war's legal basis. The War Powers Resolution gives the president 60 days to conduct military operations before requiring congressional authorization. Trump submitted a notification to Congress under the resolution, writing that Iran's behavior had become untenable despite diplomatic efforts. But congressional Democrats are arguing that notification is not authorization. Senator after senator has raised the question of what the end state looks like. There is no answer coming from the White House. Even within the Republican coalition, cracks are appearing. Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly have both publicly said Israel is dragging the United States into a damaging war. Trump responded directly saying that characterization is not true and that he alone represents the MAGA movement on this. But when 2 of the biggest voices in conservative media start questioning whether America is fighting someone else's war, the political foundation of this operation starts to shift. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi told media this week that there is no difference between this and the 12-day war last June. He said then, too, the U.S. and Israel expected Iran to surrender in 2 or 3 days, and it took 12 days before they sought a ceasefire. He is making the same argument again. Iran can absorb pain. Iran has absorbed pain for 47 years of sanctions and pressure. The question is whether Iran can absorb this particular pain this time at this scale. One image from this week tells you more about where Iran is than any military briefing. Iran's women's national soccer team was playing South Korea in the AFC Asian Cup in Australia. When the Iranian national anthem played, the women of the team stood silently. No one sang. In a country where playing your anthem is a mandatory display of loyalty, the women of Iran's national team stood in silence with the world watching. Earlier this year, tens of thousands of Iranians took to the streets in the largest protests since the 1979 revolution. The regime crushed those protests brutally. Now those same Iranians are watching their country be bombed. Some are mourning on the streets of Tehran. Others were seen cheering from rooftops the night's death was confirmed. The Iranian people are not a single voice. They are 90 million people with deeply complicated feelings about a government that has oppressed them for nearly 5 decades and a war that is now killing their children. 800 people have been confirmed killed inside Iran. 165 schoolgirls died in a single strike in Manab. The Iranian Red Crescent is overwhelmed. Hospitals have been hit. A UNESCO World Heritage Site in Thran, the Gulistan Palace, has been damaged. The state broadcaster building has been destroyed. When you destroy a country's ability to broadcast its own narrative, when you strike its sacred institutions, when you bomb the building where its clerics are choosing its next leader, you are not fighting a military campaign. You are dismantling a civilization's ability to govern itself. So where does this go from here? The United States has said harder hits are coming. Israel is on the ground in Lebanon. The assembly of experts cannot meet freely. Iran has no confirmed supreme leader. The Ras Tanura refinery is on fire. 3 American embassies are closed. The Dow has lost hundreds of billions in market value this week. Gas prices are rising in the United States. 1 million travelers are stranded. Analysts are raising a question that nobody in Washington seems to have an answer for. The Gulf states that have been defending themselves against Iranian missiles have a finite number of interceptor missiles. Experts at the National University of Singapore told CNN that the UAE cannot sustain its current interception rate for more than 1 or 2 weeks before running critically low on interceptors. If Iran keeps firing and the Gulf states run out of missiles to stop incoming fire, the calculus changes entirely. Gulf countries may be forced to either negotiate directly with Iran or shift to an offensive military posture of their own. China is watching. Russia is watching. 150 tankers are still anchored outside Hormuz. The Stena Imperative is damaged and drifting. The Ras Tanura refinery is smoking. The Dow is down. Gas is up. Americans are stranded. Lebanon is at war again, and somewhere in calm in a building that Israeli jets just destroyed. 88 clerics are trying to figure out how to choose the leader of a country that is under active bombardment. This is day 5. I will be here for day 6. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because this story is moving faster than any news cycle can keep up with, and my job is to make sense of it for you every single day. We are only on day 5, and according to the United States Secretary of State, the hardest hits are still ahead.